Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jazz Borgonzo, what's next? This is a number of stories, but it is all one. They all tie into each other. Um, what we've seen over the last 24 hours in regards to the stupidness, the utter ignorance of the social media landscape that we've seen, uh, sadly, is just going to continue. Um, People were saying 2020 couldn't get, no year could get any worse than 2020. Really? 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 But anywho, this story begins. Well, before I say that, not begins. Basically, this is normally these stories would fall under the category of under the radar, but to me, these stories I put in the category of fuck you. These are the fuck you stories. This is how you. This is when you hear these stories, when you read these stories, you just want to go, you. You know, that's the category that I put them in. But up until the last one, the last piece ties everything in together, but it makes a very important point. But you be the judge. Let's take a look. Our story begins with Mr. Potato Head. This comes out of the Washington Post. Democracy dies in darkness. No, democracy, one, we're not a democracy, we're a republic that votes Democrat. Democracy dies with liberalism. But just pointing common sense out there. No more Mr. Potato Head. Hasbro makes classic toy gender neutral. As you can see here, the stupidity. But potatoes have no gender, and soon after nearly 70 years, the name of Hasbro's popular spud-shaped toy will reflect that. No more Mr. Potato Head, it's just Potato Head. On Thursday, the company announced that it would be rebranding the iconic quick-change toy to break away from traditional ideas about gender roles and family structures. It celebrated the wedding and subsequent anniversaries of Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head and sold box sets of the couple and their offspring, Spud and Yam. Yes, there was even a picket fence. As a family structure should be. But then again, common sense. Soon Hasbro hopes the potato play can be a little bit more flexible and diverse, such as Mr. and Mr. Potato Head weddings or single spud parent families. The move reflects a growing appetite for products that offer more flexibility around identity from a surge in popularity. Not really. There was no surge. There is no growing surge. No nothing surge. It's garbage. In makeup for men, not really. To Mattel's diverse Barbies, nobody gives a damn because nobody bought them. And a boy, quote, American Girl doll. No, action figures are for boys, dolls are for girls. One in six adults in Generation Z identifies as the alphabet community, according to a Gallup survey. Now, I will take that Gallup survey with a grain of salt. I would really, there are multiple surveys out there that say otherwise, but it's neither here nor there. Providing some of the most detailed and up-to-date estimates yet on the size and makeup of the nation's alphabet population. Quote, culture has evolved. Kimberly Boyd, who works on the Potato Head brand at Hasbro, told Fast Company, kids want to be able to represent their own experiences. The way the brand currently exists with Mr. and Mrs. is limiting when it comes to both gender identity and family structure. Really. Fast forward. This comes out of the Washington Times. Remember, this is less than 24 hours. Quote, hold that tot. Hasbro assures Mr. Potato Head isn't going anywhere after VP's viral remarks. So once this VP decided to throw this out there that Mr. Potato Head will no longer be Mr. Potato Head, it's just going to be Potato Head, guess what? The VP got put on blast by tens of thousands of people, went on their Twitter account and blasted the company for basically taking an iconic character, an iconic toy that kids grew up with. I remember Mr. Potato Head as a kid, and in the early, in the, in the showing my age in the mid '70s, um, and of course, Toy Story. Toy Story brought Mr. Potato Head back into the limelight in its four movies. Um, but as we continue with the story, Hasbro says its senior VP and general manager had it wrong when she said a new and involved version of the toy was headed for the stores. Quote, hold that tot. Your main spud, Mr. Potato Head, isn't going anywhere. The toy maker's official Twitter account said in a statement hours after comments by Kimberly Boyd went viral on social media and got roasted. Miss Boyd told Fast Company that Mr. would be dropped by the iconic toy this fall in an attempt to appeal to new cultural sensitivities. As I read previously, kids want to be able to represent their own experiences. She told the website with the Mr. and Mrs. brand, it's limiting, yada, yada, yada. But of course, once this thing went viral, the company got roasted, and so the company had to put this out real quick. Hold that tot, your main spud and Mr. Potato Head isn't going anywhere. While it was announced today that the Mr. Potato Head brand name and logo were dropping the Mr. I am proud, really, to confirm that Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head aren't going anywhere and will remain Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. This is what happens when voices are heard. This is what happens when you say, you know what, enough of the stupid, enough of the garbage, miss me with that nonsense, and keep it going. Everybody wants to put identity politics tied to everything. From Mr. Potato Head to He-Man to She-Ra to other 80s and 90s iconic brands. It's effing ridiculous. That's why I put this under the U story, under that, because it is. You read something like this, and how stupid and how idiotic it is, and you just want to say, you. That's what that is. But we continue with this story because it just keeps going. Next. This is Demi Lovato. Now, for those who don't know Demi Lovato is a singer, pop singer. The last year or two, she was dealing with some personal issues. She was able to resolve those. She's better for it. Thank God for that. But of course, to quote the great philosopher Ron White, you can't fix stupid. And this is a perfect example. Demi Lovato bashes gender reveal parties as transphobic. There are boys with vaginas and girls with penises. Let that sink in for a minute. No. No. No, 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 no. Sorry, Miss Lovato. You're an idiot and a moron. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas. There are issues of irregularities. There are issues of discrepancies in regards to this for with boys and girls who are born with both sexes. but I don't know the ratio. I don't know if it's 1 per 100,000 or 1 per quarter million. I'm not sure. I don't have all the stats on that. But in this case, uh, Lovato's an idiot. And we move on to tie all this together. This story comes out of Breitbart. This is Rand Paul, of course. The story is watch. Rand Paul hammers Biden's transgender nominee on child surgery and sterilization. Now, Biden's President Dementia, or should I say, nominee, transgender nominee, is one Rachel, real name Richard Levine, former health secretary of Pennsylvania. Now, if anybody who's read the stories regarding COVID and nursing homes in Pennsylvania, fortunately, Levine was notorious in allowing COVID to run rampant in these nursing homes, literally killing hundreds, even thousands of elderly. Levine comes second only to Cuomo's incompetency regarding the elderly and COVID. But yet, Dementia wants to nominate this person for Assistant Health and Human Services Secretary. Woo! Let's listen to one Rand Paul, Dr. Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul, as he grills.
Genital mutilation has been nearly universally condemned. Genital mutilation has been condemned by the WHO, the United Nations Children's Fund, the United Nations Population Fund. According to the WHO, genital mutilation is recognized internationally as a violation of human rights. Genital mutilation is considered particularly egregious because, as the WHO notes, it is nearly always carried out on minors and is a violation of the rights of children. Most genital mutilation is not typically performed by force, but as WHO notes, that by social convention, social norm, the social pressure to conform, to do what others do and have been doing, as well as the need to be accepted socially and the fear of being rejected by the community. American culture is now normalizing the idea that minors can be given hormones to prevent their biological development of their secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Levine, you have supported both allowing minors
Oh, wow, you've got to be kidding me. Holy cow.
to be given hormone blockers to prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia. Like surgical mutilation, hormonal interruption of puberty can permanently alter and prevent secondary sexual characteristics. The American College of Pediatricians reports that 80 to 95% of prepubertal children with gender dysphoria will experience resolution by late adolescence if not exposed to medical intervention and social affirmation. Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia.
You can't do it, Rand.
For most
You
of our
can't do
history,
it.
we believe that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and to talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one. Should minors be making these momentous decisions? For most of the history of medicine, we wouldn't let you have a cut sewn up in the ER, but you're willing to let a minor take things that prevent their puberty, and you think they get that back? You give a woman testosterone enough that she grows a beard, do you think she's going to go back looking like a woman when you stop the testosterone?
Full
You have
blast.
permanently
Full
changed
blast.
them. Infertility is another problem. None of these drugs have been approved for this. They're all being used off-label. I find it ironic that the left that went nuts over hydroxychloroquine being used possibly for COVID are not alarmed that these hormones are being used off-label. There's no long-term studies. We don't know what happens to them. We do know that there are dozens and dozens of people who've been through this who regret that this happened and a permanent change happened to them. And, you know, if you've ever been around children, 14-year-olds can't make this decision. In the gender dysphoria clinic in England, 10% of the kids are between the ages of 3 and 10. We should be outraged that someone's talking to a 3-year-old about changing their sex.
Boom. 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 Rand Paul put Levine on blast. I love it. I'll tell you. This is where we are at this point, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we are, and it's saddening, it's frightening, it's dangerous when you have the left who can't just bring people into the forefront to say, you know what, based off of merit, based off of competency, based off of experience, based off of knowledge, no. Skin color, whether okay, she's got a vagina, okay, so good, you need to nominate her. You know, one nominee who's American Indian, oh well, we got to nominate her because she's American Indian, not because she's got knowledge or experience or based off of merit. You bring something like this character Levin, basically, who has an awful destructive history just in the last few months. Just look at 2020 and how this person conducted as health secretary for the state of Pennsylvania regarding nursing homes, including I guess being, I don't know if you call it smarts or just just happenstance or being just pure luck, that Levine pulled his mother out just before Levine gave the authorization regarding regarding those with COVID and the nursing home situation. So I applaud Rand Paul for grilling Levine. Of course, Levine came out with the same leftist talking points. Well, it's nuance, it's new, it's this or that. And Rand Paul didn't want to hear any of it. Rand Paul didn't want to have nothing to do with it, didn't want to have anything of it. So I applaud Rand Paul. Thank you, Rand. You got one of the few voices in DC who's willing to stand up and say, you know what, fuck you, and your nuance. And there's got to be more voices. It's got to be more voices. I know there are. Matt Gaetz is one of them. Of course, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, of course, the newest Marjorie Greene, representative. But the stupidness doesn't stop. No matter how much money you throw at it, you can't fix it. And with that being said, I'm Jasper Gonzo. This is what's next. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.